most comfortable with.
That seems to be the affidavit. I'll show you the second page.
It appears to be, yes.
If at any time during this examination you're concerned that the probable cause affidavit that you have is different than the one I'm examining you from, let me know if you will. Great. It starts out with 2 or 3 paragraphs. I'm roughly kept everywhere, excuse me. 2 or 3 paragraphs, sort of prefatory, telling the magistrate, the judge who you want to follow this affidavit, who you are and what you do, correct?
Yes.
And you and your fellow officers tell us that you're officers, you're investigators, correct?
Yes.
Been up for 35 years.
Yes.
And you're taking sworn statements. Up here, there's no evidence, correct? This isn't evidence for the court to consider beyond what your background is?
Yes.
What I'm going to call substantive evidence. So let's use that determination, meaning by that, evidence that relates to the facts of the case, okay?
Okay.
Great. So this, we would not consider this evidence, would we? Substantive evidence?
No.
Okay. And the fact that you took statements, certainly the statements would be evidence, but this is not evidence, correct? The fact that you took them isn't substantive evidence, is it?
The fact that they were taken, no, they're not.
Okay. Then you say, Sunday, 2/26, Trayvon Martin was temporarily residing at the retreat at Twin Lakes, Sanford, Florida. Certainly a piece of evidence, substantive, tells us where Trayvon Martin was living, correct?
Yes.
Doesn't give us any indication as to what happened, though, correct? With the eventual event that led to Trayvon's death, correct? This tells us where he's living.
Correct.
Okay. That he had iced tea in a bag of Skittles. Then he walked back into the gated community, was on his way back, when he was profiled by George Zimmerman. If I say to you the word peanut butter and, what do you think?
Jelly.
Okay. Mo, Larry, and...
Curly.
Okay. When I say the word profiling, what do you think?
I believe you're applying a predetermined thought pattern to a set of circumstances.
No other word comes to mind when I say the word profile to you?
I gave you my answers.
Okay, I appreciate the answer. Did you consider it to be some specific type of profiling?
No.
Okay. Then why'd you use the word profiling rather than notice, observe,
That's
saw,
hilarious.
or anything besides the very precise word profile?
Why use the word
And by the
profile
way, is
then?
that your word? Did you come up with that word?
I don't recall. This was a collaborative collaborative document.
Between who? In addition to the 2 people who signed it as being true.
Detective Osteen and I prepared the majority of this. It was reviewed by our supervisor, Bernie Del Rionda. There were several mistakes in it that were corrected, and this was the final document.
Do you know whose word profiling was?
No, I do not.
When you swore that to be true, what did you mean that to indicate?
That Zimmerman saw Martin, formed an idea in his head, and contacted the Sanford Police Department with no facts.
With no facts. And of course, you have available to you Mr. Zimmerman's statements, correct?
Oh, I do.
Again, you say that he lived in a gated community, driving his vehicle. Zimmerman felt that Martin did not belong in the gated community and called the police. Do you get that from your conversations with Mr. Zimmerman?
I have never spoken to him.
From his sworn statements that were given?
From those, his 911, or excuse me, his non-emergency dispatch.
And you state that Mr. Zimmerman perceived that Trayvon Martin was acting suspicious, correct? Did he give you, do his statements give us any insight into that?
When talking to the police dispatcher, I believe he indicated that he was suspicious.
Okay. Did he use that word?
Without reviewing it right now and reviewing all the stuff we have, I can't honestly say if he used that word during the dispatch tape.
And the dispatcher informed him that, Zimmerman, I'm sorry, that an officer is on the way and to wait for the officer, correct?
I believe so.
You would have gotten that from the 911 tape that has been heard?
The non-emergency tape, yes.
Non-emergency, sorry. Now, I'm curious, you then say, during the recording, Zimmerman made reference to people he felt had committed and gotten away with break-ins in the neighborhood. What was that gave you that indication? Do you recall?
I think he said that the second line that before you stopped, part of that is included in that statement.
How many different statements existed? The non-emergency, the emergency, how many phone calls existed of George Zimmerman's communications with law enforcement?
But, on this evening,
Yes.
I believe one.
Okay. Was it your determination, your decision to put in quotes, thereby suggesting it's his words precisely, and the only quotes you used, two phrases that use expletives? Was that an affirmative decision by you?
I don't disagree with it, but I'm not the one that put the
Why'd
quote
you do
marks
it?
in. Why don't I disagree with it? Why did I do it?
No, why'd you do it?
I didn't type it.
Well, you swore to it.
True, but I did not type it.
Okay. Did someone else make the decision to put in two quotes, and the only two quotes, that suggest that my client was using expletives?
I don't know the decision-making process to put those in quotes, but as far as I recall, those were the quotes.
Absolutely true. Don't deny that they were quotes. I'm just curious why all of the other sentences that he did, all of the other questions that he had, everything else that he did, why those didn't make it into quotes for a probable cause affidavit. And since you signed it, I'm curious if you can give us any insight on that.
I didn't put them in quotes. I can't give you insight into that.
But that's your signature?
I agree with that. That is my
So you
signature.
swear this is true?
You signed it under oath, dumbass.
But you don't know who made the decision to solely put those two phrases in quotes?
No.
Right? Okay. Who was in the decision-making process?
As I said, Detective Osteen, myself, and Bernie De La Rionda.
During this time, Mark was on the phone with a friend and described to her what was happening. And how'd you get that information?
From Detective Osteen.
Okay. And how did you get it?
He interviewed the witness.
And her name?
No, I don't.
You don't know it?
I do. I have access to it.
I apologize. I'm going to object to that witness's name being disclosed.
And I
For
was
safety.
wrong, and I apologize. It came out and I realized
Thank
I
you.
agreed, and I apologize.
You know who the witness is, and you know what the name is, you just don't want to reveal it at this time pursuant to court order.
Yes, sir, and I have access to it. However, I do not.
That's fine, and I apologize for the slip in the inquiry. How long after the event was that witness spoken to?
$5 weeks
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
by Detective Osteen.
First time she was spoken to by anyone involving this case as far as you're aware?
I have no other knowledge other than when Osteen.
Sounds like to me 5 weeks is a long time to make up a
The
story.
statements of this witness. You cannot present to us today that she had any conversations with anyone else about this event until Osteen talked to her, correct?
Correct.
Any reason why it took 5 weeks?
I have no answer because I was not involved in that interview.
But you signed it and swore it to be true.
She told you that Trayvon Martin was scared because he was being followed by an unknown man, didn't know why, correct? I'm sorry, I'll just back it up. He told Osteen, and you reviewed the affidavit, correct?
I reviewed this affidavit.
Did you review her sworn statement?
No.
But you signed it to be true.
Now,
What an idiot.
these are your words, so tell me when they're truly not. But the sentence says, Martin attempted to run home but was followed by Zimmerman. who didn't want the person he falsely assumed was going to commit a crime and get away before police arrived. Where did you get that second half of that sentence from?
Come on, spit it out. You're the lead investigator.
I believe that paragraph comes from Osteen's interview with the witness.
No. Let's look at it again together. This is what the witness said. This part of the sentence right here, followed by Zimmerman, who didn't want the person he falsely assumed was going to commit the crime to get away before the police arrived. That right to an underline that for a second, because I want you to focus on that. Just a second. And I'm going to put in quotes, no it's not. Because what I want you to do is tell me how that fact that you swore to got into your affidavit.
Well, Zimmerman, on this affidavit, and there again, we're adding to what she had said in that paragraph, but given that, Zimmerman said he didn't want him to get away because they always get away.
So this thing right here, the falsely accused was going to commit a crime, who made that determination?
It was the three of us throughout the process. I don't recall who did which sentence in this. This was not everybody sitting in one room. This was proof given to somebody else and then prepared.
When the police dispatcher would realize Zimmerman was pursuing, he instructed Zimmerman not to do that, and the responding officer would meet him. Zimmerman disregarded the police dispatcher, continued to follow him on, and was trying to return to his home. How do you know he was trying to return to his home?
Because the location he was found in is probably, and I don't have exact measurements, it's in the path to the back door of the house where he was staying.
I think the evidence suggested it was 70 yards away, right?
He came from there. I'm assuming he was going back there.
Okay.
Assuming.
When you say he disregarded the police dispatcher, from your investigation, did he, at that point, hang up the phone and just do whatever he was going to do? Did he disconnect with dispatch?
He did disconnect with dispatch, but
I want to just try and keep us on the timeline. You had said, and now you've sworn to, that Zimmerman disregarded the police dispatcher, continued to follow him on, so he was trying to return to his home. Did he disconnect at that point? Do you remember?
no, he did not, because he could be heard walking, running
Stayed on the phone with the dispatch then, did he
for a
not?
short period of time. Yes, he did.
Walking, running. How do you walk, run?
Zimmerman confronted Martin. Those words. Where did he get them from?
That was from the fact that the two of them obviously ended up together in that dog walk area.
Right?
According to the witnesses, one of the witnesses that we talked with, there were arguing words going on before this incident occurred, but it was between two people.
Right. Which means they met. I'm just curious with the word confronted. And how, what evidence you have to support an affidavit you want this judge to rely on that these facts are true, and you use the word confronted. And I want to now know your evidence to support the word confronted. If you have any.
Well, it's not that I have any, it's a word I used. I probably could have used 30 words.
Well, why didn't you use one of the 30 words? Why use confronted?
Considered, yeah, yes.
What an idiot. That's for you, revoke.